Amazing. Welcome, everyone. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi.
Amazing. Hey, everyone, just joining in. Lovely to see everyone's faces. If you can have your video on, that's amazing. We love being able to see your faces. If you haven't got your video on, you might be having lunch or dinner, depending on where you are in the world. That's totally fine. Fine. We are going to be diving into the webinar very soon. Honestly, we are so excited about what we've got today to share. And honestly, just so great to be here with both Riri and Serena. So just as we gather, we're going to do our thing where we're going to ask where everyone is. Where are you in the world and what do you do creatively? What are the things that you offer? So where are you and what do you offer? Now, just as people are sharing that and launching in here, we will kind of read through where people are at and what people are doing. But firstly, I might just share where I am. I'm actually in New Zealand at the moment. I tend to spend most of my time in North America and Europe, but I happen to be in New Zealand. I'm from New Zealand. Some of you, I see familiar faces here, know that and know about my Kiwi accent. It does surprise people sometimes. That also means it's my morning. It's very confusing. It's Thursday morning here in New Zealand. So I'm sure a lot of people here are not on Thursday right now. Most of you are on Wednesday. So there we go. And then, of course, we've got other team here on the webinar from other places. So Serena, whereabouts are you right now?
Hi everyone. I am in Scotland right now and it's 8 p.m. and it's definitely the 14th today. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Hope you're having a great day.
Amazing. I love that. And Riri, whereabouts are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Riri. I am based in San Diego, California, and it is noon over here. So, yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
I love it. And it's so good to just see the spread of different times here as well. So sometimes I answer calls with good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because, people are often in different time zones. So very cool seeing where people are at as they share in the chat as well. You can see that we've got people from all over, which is fantastic. So Gavin there in Toronto. Hey, Stacey, Santa Monica, Portland, Oregon, Catherine. I love it. Near Seattle, amazing. Hey, Jessica, Nicole. Yep, all good. South Carolina, amazing. I was in North Carolina for Thanksgiving, so there we go. I love it. And just others as you're joining in, just adding into the chat where you are if you want to share where you are in the world and what you do creatively. Amazing. It's so great being able to see the diversity of what people do, where people are at, and have us connecting with these amazing online tools like this, being able to connect from different parts of the world together. So powerful. I love it. We're going to be getting underway soon, so I'll hand over to Riri to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Riri. I'm a designer and lettering artist based in San Diego, California. I was actually in Logan's program for almost a year and learned a ton of skills and how to run a creative business from the program. So yeah, now I'm able to be a freelance hand lettering and designer. Yeah, and I'm gonna hand it over to Serena.
Hi everyone. I'm Serena. I have been fortunate to be able to work as a surface pattern designer and illustrator for the last 10 years. I'm from Italy and I'm now living in Scotland with my boyfriend who also works with me full time. I was a student in Logan's Business Accelerator and after that I signed up for his coaching. And Logan really helped me rebuild the foundation of my business when I was going through a really tough time for both my personal life and my business. And I know he has got some great insight to share with you today, so I am really excited to introduce him to you today.
Amazing. And honestly, I'm excited to be here. So, I will do a brief introduction, share a bit more. I know some of you here already know me, which is fantastic. But for those of you that don't, so I am, as I said, originally from New Zealand. Most of our clients we actually work with are in North America as well as Europe. So Canada, US, and then honestly throughout Europe, which is great. Surprisingly, we don't tend to work with people from New Zealand and Australia. I think it's partly because of the time zones that we tend to operate in. So there we go. My background is that I had my own creative business for 11 years. It was in the live event space in New Zealand. And very early on in that journey, I started teaching. So I went and did my own entrepreneurship masters. And then people started asking me to speak at different events. And that kind of evolved to mentoring, coaching, teaching. Ended up lecturing right up to a master's level and doing that for quite a number of years. It was all part-time while I was running my own creative business. Lots of different experiences online, offline, Zoom, one-on-one, on stage, groups, lecture theatres, all sorts of different things. And that sort of evolved over the years. And eventually I started running my own creative coaching programs, really helping people with the business side of their creative businesses. And that evolved, as things do, to running a creative coaching company, helping visual creatives to grow their businesses. So these days, that's what we do. We help awesome people to grow. The people we work with are kind of broken into more or less three groups. The first group are like, hey, I've got a day job. I'm doing some creative work on the side. I'm getting paid here and there, a little bit of freelance, mainly for friends or family or, people in my network. But I would love to leave the day job, and I really love to create a sustainable visual creative business. And that's group one. Group two are basically people that are further along than that. They're like, hey, I'm partial full time on the business. I'm bringing in some revenue, but I would really like to grow this to be something more sustainable, something that, yes, can actually help me to thrive, to bring in a full-time income. Maybe they do have a part-time job. Maybe they're reliant on other people financially. They really want to make this work. And then the third group are like, hey, I've been doing this forever, and I need to rediscover that sustainability. I need to maybe pivot what I'm doing. There's some changes often for those people needed to change the business model or really rediscover exactly what they're doing, and sometimes reignite that passion as well. So they're kind of the three groups. In terms of what types of things people do, very much visual creative. So a lot of our clients are illustrators, graphic designers, muralists, surface pattern designers. We very much work in that area of visual creative. We also have people that end up working with us who are, slightly outside of that. We've had the odd interior designer, photographer, videographer, people who, are still in that visual creative space, but tend to, be outside of our core clientele. So that's kind of a bit of an overview. We do occasionally work with people with larger followings as well. About 10% of our clients have over 10,000 followers on Instagram. But, as you can see, there's a lot of diversity in the people that we work with. So that's a bit of a fast, brief overview. I think the key thing today is that we're going to launch into creative business tips. We've talked a lot about what we could present, what I could present today, and get some reflections from both Serena and Riri on. And this is what we've came up with, is a bunch of awesome things that we see that people need. Right now, some of you, I see a few familiar faces. So some of you have been on webinars before. There's even some of our current clients here too, which is great. There's going to be some new things for everyone here. There's also going to be some things you might have heard before that you need to hear again, which is really important too. So we're going to dig straight into it. We will be, just before we jump in, we will actually be giving away 3 freebie coaching calls with myself, as well as a whole bunch of extra ones with Paul from my team. He's a creative business specialist on the team. So I'm just going to drop the survey that you need to fill in to do that. So we'd love you to check out that survey. Even if you're not sure if you want a freebie coaching call or not, check out the survey, because it's actually quite a good way to get a good understanding of where you're at. You will get an email copy of the survey as well. And honestly, it just helps as a bit of a check-in with where you're at in your business, and also allows us to connect with you too, see if there's ways that we can help. And obviously we'll pick a bunch of people for those 3 for the 30-minute calls with me, as well as a bunch of calls with Paul. So please open that now, check that out. We'll make sure it's in the recording we send out afterwards as well, but we will put it there now. All right, let's do it. Let's dive in. The first thing we are going to dive into, I'm going to be talking about, is shiny object syndrome. Oh, shiny object syndrome. Raise your hand, those of you on video, if you're like, yeah, I know what that is, Logan. I know exactly what you're talking about, and that affects me for sure, right? It's a pretty common one. That one is that, the idea here is that you're all interesting, creative people, and that means that you're interested in lots of different things. And that's what we tend to see, is that you tend to have a lot of different opportunities creatively, different things that you could be doing with your creative skills. And also, when you start and grow your business, you're going to notice other opportunities. So you're going to be like, oh, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, right? A lot of ideas. And that is part of your creativity. That is part of your superpowers, is noticing different opportunities and getting excited about the different things that you can do. Being a creative person means that you love to create, right? You love to do new things. That's all part of the creative process. At the same time, that can sometimes be challenging, because what can happen is you end up bouncing around and not putting enough focus into the right things, right? Because you're excited about the next thing. You start one thing, this is exciting, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be offering this, and you start to get some traction, and then You go, oh, there's this new thing over here, shiny object, that's more exciting. I'm going to go over there. Right. And then you start working on that a little bit. And then, oh, no, there's another thing over here. So, it's quite a common thing that can happen for creative people is that they get excited about lots of different things and they don't have the focus on a smaller number of things. So what's kind of interesting here is like people that we tend to talk with before we end up, if we do end up coaching them, they tend to want to do like 10 things. And one of the things I say is like, you can do 10 things, you just probably can't do them right now. Right. So that's a really key thing here is that if you want to do lots of different things, well, you still need to build a core foundation in your business. You really need to build some sustainable pieces that can be your bread and butter, things that are going to bring you sustainable revenue so that you can be full-time on the business, so that you can pay the bills, so you can invest in yourself. You can invest in your business, right? Those things are really important. So what we generally recommend is actually focusing on having 3 to 5 offerings. Now, what do I mean by that? What I'm really saying is that 3 to 5 types of products or services. There's lots of different ways to break down what's the product and what's the service, but that's generally what we're recommending. As I said, most people do too many. They want to do all the things. So it's really about what do they focus on now, like in the next 6 to 12 months. It will vary client to client, different people we work with, different backgrounds, different priorities, lots of different locations as well. But generally what we see is 3 to 5 is quite a good kind of rule of thumb. If you have a day job, if you have a young family or other commitments to other people that take a lot of time, then you probably can't do the 5, right? You're probably more like 2 to 3. Like 2 to 3 things that you can focus on. And as you grow and build and you get more sustainability, you can invest in yourself and the business, maybe even bring on some support at different levels, then yeah, you might be able to then offer more things as you get more of that sustainability as well. The other beautiful thing about having less offerings, at least to start with or to focus on, is that it means when it comes to things like marketing, you can do it in a more focused way, right? Because it's actually really hard to market to lots of different people, lots of different things. People get confused. And they're like, well, what do you do? Do you do this or this or this or this? You seem to be talking about 10 different things. It's really important you get known for a smaller number of things. And then yes, as you grow and build, you can do more things as well. So, I think there's real balance here. At the same time, I know there's some people out there and coaches out there that have an approach of saying one thing, right? Just do one thing, one offering, focus on that, perfect that. I just don't believe that for creative people, right? So yes, maybe in some types of businesses, sometimes people that might make sense to focus on one thing at a time. Actually, we've seen that, well, creative people don't want to do that. That sounds completely boring and it's not going to be motivating. So therefore, for them, it's better to have several things. And also what's interesting about that is that then you've got several offerings that can support each other, right? So you might end up with a client who is not just purchasing one thing from you, they're purchasing several things from you if you have these different types of offerings as well. It allows you to build those longer term relationships where you work with them once on one thing and then maybe 6 months later they work with you on this other thing that you offer as well. So there's actually a lot of positivity there, positive things there of having several offerings, but not too many, right? As well as keeping you engaged creatively. Because as creatives, you need to be engaged, motivated, excited, and that's really important too. Hence, just doing one thing is not going to work. So I love this. It's such an important thing to really, think about and also understand that there's a resistance in our minds of doing a smaller number of things. 3 things, Logan. Oh, I want to do all of them. Okay, well, 3 things now. That's going to help build the focus. That's going to really help to build the sustainability to do more longer term and have that longer term dream there as well. I love it. Riri, would love to hear, your thoughts and something around your experiences from this one here as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like Logan said, I think as creatives, we just have a lot of ideas and we just lose track of focus on what we actually need to do. So when I was in Logan's program, I learned how to narrow down my offerings and I did have to like test which things are working, which things aren't working along the way. But I think like now, for example, I'm focusing on art licensing, and that's one of the things that I learned with Logan while we were on our coaching call. So like I think that was really helpful for me.
Love it. This stuff is so powerful. And once again, great to, we're going to be hearing more from Riri and Serena about some of their reflections on what I'm sharing as well. Because we want to really take these ideas I'm sharing beyond the like, well, here's an idea. It's like, here's also some real life examples of this stuff in action as well. Cool. Then the next one we're going to dive into is going to be around what we call the premium or valuable offering. Now, there's kind of different semantics that people use when they talk about offerings and premium and valuable. So I'm going to give you my definition that we're going to run with today. When I talk about a valuable offering or a premium offering, I'm saying that you need to have something that you can sell that's going to be $300 or euros or more. Right, so this is something that I like to call it a valuable offering. That's the wording I most often use. But basically what it's saying is that you need something at a higher price point that you're selling. Now, there's a lot of options out there for lower price point stuff, right? Whether you have an Etsy store, or some people get into print on demand, or some people get into other types of products or even services where they're selling things that are those smaller ticket items, things under $300 or euros. Now, what we've seen is that you do need to have some bigger stuff on offer as well. And I'm saying $300 or euros plus. I'm not saying 300, right? 1,000, even better. 2,000, even better, right? So, often actually having those bigger ticket items is important. I'm going to explain why this is important. The first reason I think this is important is because I get to talk to lots and lots of people all the time. And I get to see what's working, what's not working. So yes, people we work with, we get to work with people really deeply and help support them, also see what's working, what's not working, help them support them to grow. So we get to see at that level, but also have lots of other conversations with tons of other people that we don't end up working with, and we get to see what's not working and what is working. And this is one of the big observations that we've really seen. And I think over the last 2 years, it's actually continued to morph and change. And it's actually got harder to create a business just off the lower ticket item. What we've seen is that it's really essential to build a business where you have a majority focus on these valuable offers, right? The products and services which are $300 or euros plus. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do the low ticket stuff, right? There's lots of amazing things that you can do that would be described as under $300 euros, right? Absolutely. What I'm saying is that they might be part of the equation, but they're probably not going to be the main part of the equation. So we can think about some different numbers here. We could say 30% of your energy could be spent on things that are lower ticket items under that $300 or euros. And then you could spend 70% of your energy on the higher ticket items, the things that are $300 or euros plus. Right now, obviously, every single client is different. I'm giving you some general rules of thumb here, and there's lots of different ways to look at this. But, there's the odd exception. They're incredibly rare, right? There are incredibly rare exceptions out there where people have built a sustainable long-term business using a strategy where they only focus on things that are lower ticket, right? Definitely it exists out there, but what we tend to see is that it's not sustainable long-term. It's pretty overwhelming, pretty frustrating, and there's challenges with that. So, what we're really leaning into is supporting people to do those higher ticket things. Now, for most of you, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but for most of you, it tends to be more service-based, tends to be more client work, customized, those sorts of things. The other reason I kind of think about all the reasons for this is like why does it not work? Like, you should be able to create an awesome business off lower ticket stuff, right? Why doesn't it work? Well, one of the big reasons is that it's just a numbers game. Right? When I say it's just a numbers game, what I'm really saying is that if you want to earn $5,000 or euros or $10,000 euros or more, well, you've got to think about the numbers involved to do that. Right? It's actually some pretty simple math, but it's very, very easy to forget about the realities of that simple math. So if you want to earn, let's say $5,000 or euros per month, look, if you're selling $5 offerings, you can do some numbers. You need to sell 1,000 $5 offerings every single month. And that's not taking into account the fact that you may have some costs involved, right? If it's a physical product, you may have some costs involved in that $5 product. Maybe it's delivery, maybe it's the product itself. We do some more numbers. We say, okay, well, what if I was selling something for $50? Well, you need to sell 100 of those things every single month, again and again and again, 4 years. Okay, now, maybe slightly easier, but let's think about $500, right? $500, you just need to sell 10 of them per month. you need to work with 10 different people per month. It's a lot easier to work with 10 people to sell 10 things than 100 or 1,000. And remember, I'm saying every single month, as well as that factor of, hey, I'm sure there's people here that want to earn significantly more than that, 10,000, 15,000. We've even worked with clients who've been earning 20, 30, even $40,000 per month, right? And those things there are very, very hard to do if you are selling these lower ticket items. Now, we also work with, I mentioned this earlier, we work with people who have larger followings, right? A small number of people with larger followings. And one of the things that we notice with them is they also struggle with doing that stuff too, right? I'm saying like selling those lower ticket items, right? Some of them, sure, they can make some good money off it. But what we tend to see again and again is that it doesn't work as well as you think. I'm sure many of you here, I'm sure there's people here, they're like, hey, if I had 100,000 followers on Instagram right now, I could sell. Logan said, I need to sell $50 products. I need to sell a bunch of them per month, hundreds of them per month. I could do that if I had 100,000 followers. You might be surprised because we've seen that it's still pretty challenging. Yes, there's exceptions out there, but they're pretty rare. Now, most of you here, I'm sure, probably have smaller followings. So it makes it even harder to connect with enough people. A lot of these spaces, lower ticket places, are also very, very competitive. Right, so that's another thing that we really see is the competitive nature of these lower ticket items has just increased. Right, the number of people on things like print on demand on Etsy has just dramatically increased over the last few years. So, obviously there's lots of different ways to build a business. This is just what we see. We see that there tends to be some of what you do that needs to be these higher ticket items, higher price offerings as well. So, I know, Serena, this is something you've thought about a lot as well, and have done lots of different things over the years. We'd love to hear, your insights on this for everyone here too.
Yeah, I love this question. And this is definitely something I had to learn the hard way. I think mine was a pretty big transformation. I went from charging $1 to $3 to minimum 300 to 4 figures for one illustration. So it was a very, very big shift. I started my business quite a few years ago in 2013 on Etsy, and I had to create thousands of products and sell hundreds each day to stay to keep a comfortable income each month. As you were saying, it was a lot of products, and it was incredibly stressful. And I finally reached a breaking point when I was recovering from chemotherapy, and I just couldn't go back to those 14-hour workday because I knew something needed to change, or I would have to give up my business because overworking myself was no longer a sustainable option for me. And at the same time, I was really scared to completely have to overhaul my business, and I was feeling pretty overwhelmed, and I wasn't very confident that I knew how to run a premium business because I had been selling low ticket offers for so long. And that was when I started working with you, and you really gave me the confidence and structure I needed to change my strategy and put myself out there in a way that was more valuable for my clients and also more respectful for my health and for my work as well. And once I got out of my own way, I started setting up my professional contracts to license out my work as my premium offer. So I picked a service as my premium offer, and that's when I did the jump from $1 to $3 to 3 to 4 figures. And I feel so lucky now because I got to work with wonderful clients and have so much more time for myself and to create high quality work that I'm actually proud of instead of rushing. And one of the values I really got from making a premium offer was that the clients are a lot more professional as well and an absolute joy to work with. They really respect your work and they are there for you and not just to buy an obscure product they're purchasing online. And when I was mainly selling low offers, I was constantly dealing with customer service every day. And sadly, the lower you price your products or services, in my experience, the more likely you are to get demanding and difficult customers. And you're also dealing with a huge volume of sales. So that's more people to work with. Now I honestly cannot imagine going back to the way my business used to run, and I couldn't have changed my business around without the help of the program and the confidence you gave me to make a premium service. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I love this, and just so good to hear like Serena's in-depth stuff about this, because like this is real stuff that happens, right? And you know, as Serena shared, like she'd already been in business for quite a number of years at this point, and there was a pivot needed. And I think, you know, those pivots are hard. Like we work with advanced clients as well, and sometimes when those pivots need to happen, boy, it's a bit of a messy process. And as you shared there, as Serena shared, the mindset stuff is huge, right? The mindset shift, confidence hit, those sorts of things that can really come up as well. So, you know, I think it's all very well for us to sit here and say, you just need to offer something valuable, right? Or, you know, these valuable offers. There was a whole journey for you to go through where you really had to really rebuild the business, right? And that's not something that happens straight away either, but, you know, just loved being on that journey with you. So I love it. Yeah, go for it, Serena. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the main thing I learned was that sometimes you have everything you need to start with your premium offer. You just need to take the leap, honestly.
That's huge. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, there's power in that, and power in these ideas we're talking about. So I love it. We're gonna keep moving through them. Something we would love to do is get everyone to share their Instagram URL. We love being able to do this on webinars. So if you can pop your URL there, please do like I've done and go to, like, don't just put the @ tag. Actually go to like a browser and grab the actual URL, right? So it should say something like that, because then it's a link and then everyone here can follow you, right? So we would love to follow you. Serena and Riri are going to post these as well. So definitely make sure you're following us as well as other people here. This is part of connecting with other people and building community too. It's getting connected. So we'd love everyone to post their things as well within that there too. Cool. Amazing. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Do you want to briefly share a bit more about your premium offer, Serena, just before we move on? Just see there's a question there around that. So if it's okay to ask, Serena, what is one of your premium offers, or the things that you're focused on there, those higher ticket amounts?
I offer my surface pattern design work for licensing, and I usually do longer contracts, so they would be at least 1 to 2 years. And the price depends on whether people want exclusivity for the design, or how much royalties you're gonna get in advance. There is many ways you can actually structure. Usually you will have to come to an agreement with your client, but what I do different now is that I no longer offer my work on website like Creative Market, for example, or Etsy, where you just offer a license where they can do whatever they want with your products, and they can use it. Another thing that I do is I do illustration commissions for either editorial, or I just now started doing book covers, and those are also really good premium offer to offer.
Love it. So good. Great, you know, seeing examples in action here. We're going to keep moving through. We've got lots more to cover during the webinar. So the difference between social media as a core strategy versus supporting strategy. This is something that we really wanted to dive into here today. So when I talk about a core strategy, what I'm really saying is that, you know, you don't have to be everywhere when it comes to marketing. Right? This is kind of one of the things we all hear this online. It's like, you've got to be absolutely everywhere. You know, people have to find you in lots of different ways, and you know, you've got to make sure you're on all the social media platforms and doing all the things. You know, I just don't believe this. My belief is that you need to have a core focus when it comes to your marketing. So what we call a core marketing strategy. Now, the core marketing strategies that we tend to see for visual creatives tend to be outreach, social media, partnerships, or networking. Right, they're kind of the core things that we see. Look, there's exceptions to that as well, right? But those are the core things. So as I shared, it's either outreach, social media, partnerships, or networking. Right now, in terms of social media, yes, there's even different things with that as well. You know, in terms of which platform, right? We see a lot of people, it seems to be Instagram. We've seen the odd exception out there as well. Sometimes Pinterest pops up, sometimes even TikTok as core platforms as well. But when we talk about social media can be a core strategy, right? So a core marketing strategy where you really focus your energy into. Now, if that's what it is, okay, great. What that means is that as a core strategy, you really need to focus on it. You need to be consistently posting multiple times per week. You probably need to be doing reels in most instances, right? There's always going to be exceptions. We do have some clients that don't actually do any reels, that find that it can still work very, very well for them. Also, you need to keep learning about Instagram, the latest things, the latest updates, testing things out, trying different things, getting into the DMs. It's kind of a lot, right? But this is what's required if you're going to say, well, my core focus is Instagram, for example. Now, at the same time, what we're also saying is it doesn't have to be Instagram. You do not have to do all the things I just mentioned. The other side of this is what we call supporting strategies, right? So supporting strategies are also important. They are the things that support your core strategy. So Instagram is a great supporting strategy because it's pretty easy to use, it's free, and it's something that you can figure out pretty easily. So if it is a supporting strategy, it means that you don't have to post all the time. You don't have to use reels. You don't even have to really keep up with what's going on, but you should use it occasionally, right? So that means maybe you should see if you can post once a week or even just twice a month. What that's going to do is it's going to support the other core thing that you're doing. For example, if you're leaning into outreach, right, you're like, I'm going to send a lot of emails. I'm going to do a lot of cold and warm outreach to connect with people. Well, having an Instagram and posting on it occasionally is going to help you actually get more replies, because people may still go and check out your Instagram. And now they might not care that you're not posting every single day or multiple times a week, but they're going to check, are you real? Are you occasionally posting? And if you haven't posted in 6 months, they might be like, even though you're not really pushing Instagram, they might come across, they might research for it and try and find your Instagram page. And they might be like, I don't know if I'm going to reply to this cold outreach email because this person barely looks like they're in business because they're not posting at all on Instagram. Right. So that's something to really think about here, is the difference between Instagram and social media as a core strategy versus what we call a supporting strategy. Now, I do have conversations with people. One of the big conversations I have with people are, what are you doing marketing wise? And most people get a bit embarrassed when we first talk to them and they say, well, social media, I post on social media. And I go to the social media and they're like, and I'm like, you haven't posted in 3 months. And they're like, I know. Right. So, it's one of the things that really comes up. Right. And this is where, once again, it's figuring out what you're going to do. And we've got some clients right now who don't have Instagram. They're just like, I don't like it for whatever reason. Well, they have to therefore work out what is their core strategy. If it's not going to be Instagram, that's totally fine, but they need other things. And as I said, it probably would be a nice boost if they did have it as a supporting strategy, because it still helps to build trust as well. Right. So there's a lot of different stuff here around this. And obviously we're just kind of scratching the surface of this, but just really helping everyone see that Instagram, we're talking about specifically, but social media, there's the core strategy, meaning you need to really focus on it, do a lot, figure out all the different features and use it, versus supporting, where I still think it's a great tool that you can do. Now, as I said, if you're like, oh, Logan, I don't want Instagram to be a core strategy. Okay, well, it means you need to figure out the other things, which tend to be things like networking, partnership, outreach. And some of those things don't sound particularly exciting either. So, it's really figuring out what you can lean into. Yes, there's going to be some discomfort to work these things out, especially if you haven't used these things before as well. So, a lot in this stuff. Riri, would love to hear your thoughts and experiences around this as well.
Yeah, this is actually a great one because I'm actually doing kind of like a experiment on social media. My main core strategy is like outreach. And then I have social media or Instagram as my supporting. And I'm doing an experiment right now where I'm posting consistently, trying to do it for 30 days, and see if that will increase my followers or change anything. And I've noticed that Instagram loves consistency. So I've been posting every day for the last 2 weeks, and my engagement is up, my social media following is up, but that's really not how I gain a lot of my clients. A lot of my clients come through from my cold outreaches, and then I use social media as a way to interact with the community. So like I do a lot of drawing challenges, and that's allowed me to help my growth in my followers, meeting new artists, and interacting with the artist community.
Love it. So powerful. And once again, just great getting perspectives on this stuff as well. Next thing we're going to jump into is how to work smarter, not harder. Now, I think one of the things we often see is a lot of you here are probably spending a lot of time on your businesses, even if that's next to a day job, family, other commitments, you're spending time on it, right? And that's the biggest thing that people struggle with is, Logan, can there be more time in the day? Can we have a few more hours, please? Well, this is where it comes down to actually working smarter with the time you have, not harder, not just the grind, doing more hours. I'm really not into the hustle culture. This really is about what you are doing with your time. And there's kind of two things I'm going to mention here. One of them is that you need to get really clear on what your goals are, right? Because a lot of people are just doing stuff, right? They're like, well, I'm kind of building my creative business, but they're not really clear on what they're building it towards. They have some vague goals, usually not written down, but actually having clarity around goals is so important. We really work with clients to help them figure out the goals. And part of this here is what are good goals, right? So getting clear on goals that are, yes, realistic, doable, but also things that do push you as well. The other part of this is actually having a business model that works, right? And we've kind of already talked about this, is that like Serena was working really, really hard, trying to do a lot of different things, having these low ticket items. Like if Serena had doubled her hours, she probably still would have struggled. And then there was definitely no room. You needed to, reduce the time, right? So, this is something that we need to be really aware of, is it's also about what you're doing in your business. It's not just, I need to hustle more, I need to do more, I need to spend more hours. That's not always going to be the thing that's going to get you there. It's also about working smarter, having clear goals, having the right business model, such as having these higher ticket offerings to actually help you get there. So, this is something that is really, really interesting. I've seen that hustle culture burn people out again and again, and it's not something that actually works, because what you end up doing is you end up quitting, you end up getting overwhelmed, you end up not doing smart things in your business because you're just trying to make it all work and you're not sleeping enough and you're feeling overwhelmed as well. So, Serena, would love to, hear your thoughts and experiences on this one.
Oh. Oh, yes, of course. This is something that I actually think about a lot because even though I don't have a 9-to-5 job anymore, I do have chronic fatigue syndrome, which is a disability that makes it very difficult for me to manage my energy and even with very simple tasks. And so I like to say that taking care of my health has become my new 9-to-5 job. So I can understand the struggle of having to work smarter and not harder. And I feel like that so much of the productivity advice that comes from on people online is from people who are already a bit further ahead in their journey. And they're amazing for motivation and having a goal to work towards. But it can also be extremely stressful if you try to take on their 35-hour-a-week strategy when you only have 5 hours or so to work on your business. And what I learned from my experience is that when you are starting, you only really need to focus on one or two things to get off the ground or to keep growing. And the key is obviously finding out what those few things are. And I would love to be able to give you a list right now, but everyone's business and situation is different. So there is not one size fits all solution. But what worked for me was to create solid systems for everything. I do pretty much every single aspect of my business as a system, from how I structure my week to organizing my finances to writing blog posts or creating a pricing strategy for my work, and even creating the work itself. So there is never any guesswork about what I need to do or how to do it. And I think at the start, it is much better of an investment to focus on creating those systems making sure they work for you, and as they will save so much time and headaches later on. And when you implement them, okay, sorry, I'm getting a bit lost. So when you implement them and your business starts to grow, you'll be able to just pass them on, just get hire help, pass those tasks on, and then you can focus on all the aspects of the business that you either enjoy more or that you're better at. And whenever you feel stuck, try to seek feedback and guidance from people who have been in a similar situation before, or that are in a position where you want to be in the future, because they are the people who are most likely to know what is the smarter thing to do in your particular situation.
Yeah, that they get it, right? Like, they've had those experiences, they get it, which is so powerful. So I love that. So many great things there. We're going to keep rolling on through things. We might have a little bit of time for questions at the end. We're probably not going to have lots of time because we want to make sure we cover off everything on the webinar. The next thing we're going to talk about is this idea of perfection. Raise your hand if you're a bit of a perfectionist sometimes, even just occasionally, right? Yeah, and you've got two hands for sure. I'm that too. And, I think that, there's something in that, is that when you're a creative person and you're releasing your own work, right? This is your creative energy. These are your ideas that you're putting out there into the world. It's kind of like a bit of a reflection of yourself, right? And therefore, you want it to be a really good reflection of yourself. I think we all fear criticism. We all fear putting things out there and people saying, "Oh, is that yours? Is that what you do?" Kind of thing. And you're like, "Oh, that's the fear that often sits behind it as well." Now, what's interesting about this, we've seen this again and again, where perfection can also hold you back so much. Right? Because what it means is that you just don't release anything. You don't do anything. You're like, I don't want to release these things. I don't want to share what I can do. I don't want to post on Instagram. I don't want to send a cold outreach because I'm not ready yet. Now, the way to get ready is to take imperfect action. You all have to do stuff that you have not done before to grow your creative business. And that means you have to start off as a beginner. You have to start not being perfect. How do you get better? You do it, right? We can use lots of different examples here. How do you get better posting on Instagram? You post on Instagram. Right? I've talked to lots of clients that are like, yeah, like, and I went and like archived my early posts on Instagram because they weren't very good. But it's the thing that got them to where they are now. Right? So we've got to be very, very aware that actually taking action, trying things, testing things is going to be part of that journey. It's going to feel not great at times. I'm not saying put rubbish out into the world. I'm not saying just throw stuff up and see what happens. It's like, no, like put thought into things, right? But the question you need to ask is not, is this perfect? The question you need to ask is it good enough? Is it good enough? And often, actually, it is. Obviously, your eye on your own work can be quite hard to see. Is it good enough? And that's where having coaches, mentors, community around you sometimes to check can be part of that as well. But this is just something I want everyone to be very, very aware of, is that to grow, you're probably going to have to do new, different things, and you're probably going to have some imperfection out there, and you're going to get better as you grow as well at all of these things too. So it is critical to get moving. It's hard. There's some mindset stuff around this as well. Riri, would love to hear your thoughts on this one as well.
Yeah, so I feel like as an artist, obviously I get so caught up in the fine details of, like, for example, on Instagram, like I want to post things that I think are perfect and complete, but then, with this idea of like protection or perfection, debunking the idea of perfection, like I think I've been trying to post on Instagram that I think that are my best work, but that allows for like consistency, right? And I feel like that's more important on Instagram or anything in general. Just taking action, I think is more important than making sure everything you have is perfect, essentially. So
Yeah, it's honestly, it's so important, and it's also hard. Like, this stuff is hard. I'm not saying it's just easy to just post stuff and go for it. It's like there's going to be like a tension, a feeling in your stomach at times where you're just like, ugh, right? And yes, that's a good feeling to listen to and really go, is this real? What does this look like? Maybe it is reflecting of someone else and saying, does this thing look okay? What do you think? And most of the time they'll be like, it's amazing. I don't know what you're talking about. Why have you got that feeling? Like, but it's, this natural stuff of having fear of what are people going to say, or fear of failure, or fear of criticism, right? These things, they're, very, very powerful in our minds. We are going to talk about, we've got one more thing we're going to talk about, and then we've got some questions there we're going to dig into, just take a few minutes on them. And it's really about confidence. I'm going to keep this one pretty short, but that doesn't mean it's not important. Confidence underpins everything, right? All the stuff we're talking about today requires confidence. Taking imperfect action requires confidence. Actually figuring out your offerings and going for these higher ticket type offerings takes confidence, right? These things that we've dug into are so important, yes, but confidence underpins them. So one of the things that we see is that you do need to often build up your personal and professional confidence in what you do. And that sometimes takes time. Some people maybe are naturally a bit more confident. Well, I wouldn't say naturally. I'd say that they've grown to be more confident because of their upbringing. Everyone can get more confidence. This is just a skill like anything. You can work on your confidence. You don't have to be the world's most confident person to grow a business, but you probably need to work on and build that confidence up. So a couple of things I'll share around this is, one, yes, it's a skill. You can learn and you can grow it, and you probably need to. The second thing is a couple of tips around confidence. Already good to talk about this idea of confidence. What can you physically do? What can you do today to increase your confidence? Number one, share wins. Pretty much the most simple thing you can do. This is something we do on a lot of our weekly trainings with our clients, is get people sharing wins. Small wins, big wins, actually doesn't matter. But you celebrating the good things is really important, because there's going to be some negativity. There's going to be some voices in your head saying, oh, you're not good. You're not good enough. Why are you doing this? Actually celebrating the things that are going right is also very, very important. That is one thing that you can do. Celebrate those wins. Practice gratitude around those wins as well. The second thing that you can do, and I go on about this one a lot, is do the things you say you're going to do. Do the things you say you're going to do. There's one way to decrease your confidence, and that's to do the opposite. Right? Is to promise things to yourself and those around you and then not deliver. And you're going to feel terrible about it. And it's going to lower your confidence. And your subconscious mind is going to be like, oh, you never do what you say you're going to do. And therefore, when you think about doing the next thing, there's going to be a little voice that says, you never do what you say you're going to do. Remember, you said you were, promised that friend that you would, call them as time or meet for coffee or something like that. You didn't even show up. You didn't even call them. Right? Those are the sorts of voices, where they come from. So actually practicing this stuff is so important. Sometimes that means we need to be careful about what we are saying we will do. Right? Because we all are ambitious people. We want to do lots of different things. We've got to be aware of our capacity as well. So it's a very interesting one around this. And confidence is something that's so important. You need to work on that, because it's underpinning every single thing in your creative business as well. Serena, would love to hear a bit about your journey around this as well.
Yes, I love this question, and it's one that's very near and dear to my heart. I think that having confidence to show up alongside your work and build your personal brand is such an important skill to have, especially right now with AI becoming a thing, a thing that exists. I think it's important to realize that people either buy from people or brands that they admire and look up to, or they're just going to look for the best deal. So if you hide behind your artwork like I used to do, you might be fighting against a machine, and that is a really tough fight to win. But on the other hand, if you have the confidence to show up, give value, and grow a following, you will always have people who want to support you and buy from you. It also means reaching out to clients and other creators, building your personal brand, and even saying yes to opportunities that come your way, which can sometimes be very scary, but it is part of the journey, and it is okay to be scared. Sometimes things will be hard, and I think that's okay. I especially know the feeling of being scared because I like to describe myself as an extrovert with extreme social anxiety. And one of the reasons I was working on my business in such an unhealthy way was before I met you, Logan, was because of my lack of confidence. And one of the strongest pieces of advice on building confidence that I can give is to find a support system that you can really rely on and can help you, give you that initial boost you need to support you when you really need it. For me, when I joined the accelerator, it was an incredible experience because I got to hang out with the community. And it was a community of people that share the same goals and passions. And I really think that there's nothing more motivating and better to boost your confidence than having people around you that really believe in you. Because when people start believing in you, you start believing in yourself, even if you don't at the beginning. And once you start getting that momentum and taking things off of your to-do list and getting small wins, you want to keep that action going because it feels so good, and it becomes easier and easier to keep building that confidence and taking action, because ultimately it's action that leads to confidence, but you need that little bit of action. I mean, that little bit of confidence to get the action, even if it's scary in the moment.
I love this, and once again, just like so good hearing that the real life side of the stuff too, because this is real stuff that people struggle with and people have to work through as well. And one of the things sometimes see around like mindset and confidence is the people who are like, no, Logan, that's not the thing in my way. And I'm like, oh, okay, it is. And I know, for you, Serena, as well as you, Riri, you're both like, hey, these are things I want to work on and want to develop. And you're really open to that as well, which I think is so, so powerful. So I love that. Vulnerability is important. Support system is important. Like, these are so many good things being shared here. We are coming towards the end of our time. I do want to jump into a couple of these questions. So I'm just going to fire through them. Reminder again, we do also have, I'm going to drop that link again too. We've got that survey link. If you're interested in a coaching call with myself or Paul from the team, feel free to drop that in. Those, as I said, we'll be giving away some freebie calls as part of that. Always interesting, always a good learning. So make sure you pop that open. Now, in terms of the questions, there's been a few shared in the chat, so I'm going to dive into a couple of them. The first one there, Judy shared really early on, saying, I'm unsure if I should do Instagram or Facebook or newsletter. Where should I start? Where should I start my focus? Now, look, I think any of them is actually fine to start, because the key here is starting rather than going, hey, what should I do? Sometimes we can get stuck in what should I do? Starting any of them would be fine. Now, at the same time, if you're going to ask me which order, what should I do? Start with Instagram. It's kind of the easiest place to start. Then you can add on other things. We're not tending to see Facebook working so well for most visual creatives. Instagram just tends to work better. Instagram is a meta product as well. That's generally what we're seeing. Facebook groups occasionally can work okay, but generally I would recommend starting with Instagram. And then you can start building your newsletter as well. Now, once again, you may decide, I don't want to do Instagram. That's fine. You need to figure out what is another place that you can do, because having a newsletter is usually not enough, because you need somewhere to promote sign up to that newsletter. Having a website, which is just like, boom, sign up to my newsletter, generally isn't going to be enough, because there's no one's driving to your website. So that's where having Instagram, building a following there, can be a good place to start with. So that's kind of a short answer to, what can be a much more complicated question, because it depends on what you do and how you do it and all those things. The other one I do want to really briefly jump into, because I think other people here will have the same question, is this one around outreach. So that one there, I'm just having a look. Around outreach, Matilda, how do you find the new clients to contact directly? I think this is like one of the biggest challenges of outreach. People think, oh, it's hard to send the emails and stuff. Well, yes, but once you've got a system in place, template, you know how to do it, you know the approach, it's not too hard. It's just kind of a bit boring and a bit time consuming. It's actually how to find the right people, right? How to find the names, the emails of the people to contact. That actually becomes the longer term, bigger challenge, because if you're going to do outreach, well, if you're going to do cold outreach, it's a bit of a numbers game. So you've got to be doing enough of it to have an actual impact. So therefore, you need to get good at finding people. Number one thing here that people get wrong is they are not clear on who they are working with or who they would like to be working with. That is actually a huge answer to this is, okay, well, how to find people. Who are the people? Logan, any people that work with me. Okay, we need to get more clear on that, right? So it's really, really important that you have clarity around, yes, what you want to offer to whom, right? And if we're going to get really specific, you could say, I want to, there might be some muralists here. I want to do murals for cafes and restaurants. Okay, what types of cafes and restaurants? Where are they located? Are they in your city? Are they in your state, your country? What does that look like? So actually understanding the locations can then help you to actually find those people, right? Because then you can actually start to use different strategies to track them down. So that's really the first piece that I see a lot of people struggle with is the clarity of the who. Once you get the who, you can then break it down and go, okay, cool. I'm going to look for cafes and restaurants in my local town. Great. Okay, well, there's lots of ways to do that. You can literally go on Google Maps and do it. We've had clients do that. They literally go on Google Maps and search around, put in cafes and restaurants. Google is a tool that is crucial here. It doesn't sound particularly interesting, but in all forms of finding contacts for outreach, Google is a great tool if you are clear, because then you can say restaurants, cafes in this location, and you can start to find what restaurants exist. Once again, you can use the strategy with lots of different target markets as well. There's other ways you can do it as well, searching on Instagram. Some people use LinkedIn as well. Some people do use like directories, right? You might pay for a list. Got to be a bit careful about this. You can test it, may work. Generally what happens is if you buy a list of contacts, those people get a lot of emails, right? Those people get a lot of emails and they probably mark many of them as spam, or those emails that you've purchased, a whole ton of them are old, don't exist, out of date, etc. So just being aware of that. There's some other approaches here, but those are kind of some of the key ones within that. Time is up. It always flies, these webinars. Woo. What I want to do is I would love everyone here to share a takeaway in the chat. Right, we've dove into so many things. I'd love everyone to share a takeaway. So what's something that you found interesting? What's something that you've learned? Would love everyone just to add a reflection just before we wrap up in the next minute or two. What have you found unique? What have you found surprising? Adding a bit of a takeaway, because that's going to help to consolidate things for you as well as consolidate things for others here. We also just love hearing what you've heard, what you've found unique, interesting, helpful, surprising. Maybe there's something you heard here that you're like, oh, I've never heard that before. That's a new thing. So if everyone just wants to add in just a sentence or a few words around what they've learned, what they've come up with, what's been helpful. So I'll just share a few of them as they pop up. Clarify what you want to offer and to whom, Catherine. Absolutely. It's, it kind of almost seems like common sense, but it's not, right? We see this a lot, is that people want to deliver their creativity to the world. They need to get more clarity on the what and the who. Hey, I can do anything. I'm a creative person. Okay, well, we need to get more clear than that, because people don't just buy anything. They buy specific things. They spend their money on specific things. It's such an important thing. You don't have to be everywhere to market. Just have a core strategy, Matilda. I love that. Corinne sharing, learn to take imperfect action. I love that. Do it scared anyway, and everyone is learning and growing differently, right? You're not seeing on Instagram, everyone, you're not seeing the true journey that is happening for people behind the scenes. There's all sorts of fear and confidence work and stuff happening behind the scenes. Build confidence by doing the things you say you'll do. I love that, Stacey. Amazing. Sarah's sharing, I've heard you talk about $300 plus offer before, implemented it into monthly plan, negotiating price with clients. Amazing, Sarah. That's so cool. Gavin sharing, confidence underpins everything. Yeah, hiding behind your art gets in the way. Connection with your audience, high offering items. So many good things being shared here in the chat. Keep firing them in. Honestly, it's just been such a delight. It's also just been a blast seeing you both again, working with you both here, Serena as well, and Riri too. Just so great. So we are going to wrap up today's webinar. Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Take care and have a lovely rest of your morning, afternoon, evening. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.